Okay, so first let's talk about how sustainability become a thing. Like you've heard sustainability this, sustainability that, and a lot of people are talking about sustainability. So let's just go back and see how the sustainability evolved over the time. First and foremost, um, the idea of sustainability or the notion of sustainability, it dates way back years ago. So in late 1700s, or to be specific, 1798, Thomas Malthus, he published an essay where he set out theory of population, which says that population tends to grow quicker than the resources. And this is even true for today. We live in an overpopulated world where the resources have become exploited even further. Okay. And then, and surprisingly, not many people know this, but the idea of sustainability actually originated early in 1950s and 1960s from business. In business, the business are mostly focused on profit, but they came up with this triple P framework, which says that business should not only be about profit, it should be about the people and it should be about the planet. Okay. And then at the same time, there was a green revolution in early 1970s, late 60s. And at the same time, the effects of green revolution was the negative effects of green revolution was like felt by some group of people. And the idea of sustainable agriculture came forward, where the goal was to maintain the rural economies, maintain water supply, and keep up with the farm business. And it was the same time the EPA, the famous EPA, which is like Environmental Protection Act, Environmental Policy Act in US came forward. So this all events led to our common future. This is like in 1987, the World Commission on Environment and Development, it came out with a report. And that report is commonly known as Brundtland Report that came out with the idea of sustainable development. So what this report tried to do is it tries to bring in, it tries to address the inequality in global resources consumption between the industrialized and non-industrialized world. So this is what the goal was all about. And this is a famous um, definition that we use whenever it comes to sustainability. Sustainable development is the development that meets the need of the both present and the future generation. That is the common definition, and it's used so many times. But the problem here is that from 1798 to present, we are looking for the similar problems. And it was just the first time that sustainability with human development and socioeconomic inequalities were brought forward. But now what has happened is like it's been used as a buzzword, you know? It's a cooler word to say sustainability this, sustainability that, and many of the times we don't even know what it meant. Okay. So lately there was an article in Bangkok Time which said like in one of the cafes in Bangkok, they replaced the plastic straw with the wooden ones. And they were claiming the restaurant is sustainable. Well, sustainability is more than that, okay? And it was not the plastic straw that was making the situation unsustainable. So, you know, we need to go deeper than this and we need to understand deeper than this. And why do we need to understand this? Because sustainability is so vague, sustainability is so contested, and it is so difficult to define. And different people have approached sustainability differently. Okay, so let me take you to northern Thailand. So when I was working for Toyota Foundation in one of the provinces in Thailand, Mahasarakam. So for people who do not know where Mahasarakam is, it's like closer to Lao border, okay? So in that area, there's a mechanism called Soporkar. The Soporkar is a mechanism where the land is allocated to the indigenous people for agriculture and forest management. But what happened is like during 1990s and early 2000, more than 70% of the forest in that particular area was destroyed. Why? Because the mechanism was too complex for laymen. Those supercore mechanisms was developed by experts, and it became very difficult for laymen to understand. So this is exactly the same with sustainability. Sustainability for laymen and sustainability for experts are so different, you know, and these gives provide, like this provides power and resources to those people who have, like these provide powers and resources to those people, and there's like a power dynamics, and those with the resources and power trying to use sustainability in their side, especially if you look into the US context, especially the Walmart, the big media houses, they've used the sustainability into their perspective because they have power and resources to do that. And another thing, important thing is that, you know, sustainability is also viewed differently from the different background of people. For example, if you ask an economist what sustainability is, probably the economist will try to say it in terms of maximum sustainable yield. If you ask a social scientist, they will probably talk you about in social justice perspective. If you ask an ecologist, let's say, he or she will probably say in terms of ecosystem services. So this all things make sustainability so vague and so contested and so difficult to define. And trust me, I am a third year doctoral student at Michigan State University, and my department is called Community Sustainability. Until today, I cannot define sustainability because it is so vague, contested, and difficult to define. But having said that, let's try to dissect um, the definition we have so far. The most commonly used definition is from Sustainable, the Brundtland definition, which says that sustainable development meets the need of both present generation and future generation, okay, without sacrificing the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. Okay, this is expert definition, or we call it stipulative definition. So let's convert this definition into a layman, how layman would understand it. According to the layman definition, what sustainable development means is that if you have enough resources, you are sustainable. If you have enough resources, you are sustainable. Let's look at into agriculture. If you have enough resources to feed the people, you are sustainable. Let's take another example of hunting. Hunting, like I live in Michigan, hunting is like one of the most common hobbies of people. People like to hunt. And also there are like a lot of deers around, and Department of National Park, they open times for hunting and people hunt a lot. And like hunting is sustainable if there are enough deer to kill. And also according to this definition, let's look at the business. So the business is likely to be sustainable if capital needed to operate the business is available. Well, I'm just saying it in terms of this definition. But this all definition, this all idea, which says that in order to become sustainable, you need to have enough resources. That comes from a resource sufficiency paradigms. Okay, this is one of the background of looking at sustainability. But what is the problem with this? The problem with this is like, it does not say what resources. It just says like, we need to have resources. We need to meet the needs. What needs are we talking about? What resources are we talking about? And it just says future generation. Whose future generation are we talking about? Are we talking about my future generation? My granny's future generation? So what is the time frame? Like we can say it maybe for smaller resources. For example, if there's a groundwater, maybe we can say it, if you use groundwater at X rate, maybe this groundwater will be available for Y number of years. But this, when we talk about sustainability, not all the things can have a time frame. So this is also still not clear. And also important thing is, what process are we talking about? When we say agriculture is sustainable if resources need for farming is available, are we talking about organic farming? Are we talking about chemical induced farming? Are we talking about bio-intensive farming, what sort of farming are we talking about? So there's like nothing written there. And also we say like business is sustainable if the capital needed to operate the business is available. Is it the only capital that makes business sustainable? Or it has to do with the labor forces. It has to be how you treat your labor or how you treat your customers. So there's like many different things which this definition does not cover. And another important thing is for whom. Are we talking about the sustainable development? Are we talking about resources for 1% of the global rich population who occupy 80% of global resources? Or are we talking about millions of indigenous communities living in Southeast Asia? Or are we talking about the forgotten billions in Africa? So it's not clear for whom, and there is no justice piece added to here. So, well, when there's a resource, when they say resources, I probably think it has to do with the capital. Because if you can see in my screen, this is a framework. Comes from the livelihood framework. This is a livelihood framework. It was developed by Robert Chambers in early 1990s, and Chambers worked closely with the Brundtland Commission, and I assume it has to do with the capital. But when we say resources, as I said, it must be capital. But it is also implying, in some way, it is also implying that after X number of years, either you have to replace the capital or you have to use it more efficiently. So it is also saying that. But you know, the idea of replacing, it's controversial in itself. For example, can the economic and financial resources overcome all the losses that incurred in natural system? Let's see, let's focus again on the agriculture example. So you see, like agriculture provides a lot of ecosystem services. Those services can be supporting services, regulating services, provisioning services, non-marketed services. There are like so many services there. So if we destroy the natural capital, can financial and economic capital replace this functions and services that we're getting from the environment? The answer is no. So is this the way we are dealing with sustainability sustainable? That is a big question. Okay, I just want to stop and ask Shreya, are you listening to what I'm saying? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You have exactly 9 minutes to conclude.
Okay. So what is happening right now is like our practices have been such that we have changed the overall system, okay? We have been much more profit oriented. We want high yield rice, but we cannot, like, in order to want high yield rice, cannot tolerate pest anymore. We have applied pesticides, and now every now and then we're losing the natural enemies. And we have used chemicals so much that our soils have lost the fertility, and the poor people are becoming poorer, and they're losing their sovereignty and autonomy over the plants and planting materials. And this system has become so vulnerable that a single event can destroy it. Okay, and sticking with the same agricultural example, we all know that the goal is to increase the production. And we believe that we have, like, in order to want to believe that we have enough food, we have made the system so unsustainable. And in the process, we have changed the overall systems and the scenarios, okay? The system, and like, okay, and there's another paradigm. Okay, the first paradigm that I was talking about was resource sufficiency. Now there's a second paradigm, which is called functional integrity, which says that we have to look into the system. We do not need to look into the processes and practices, but we have to look into the system. And the system, let's say agriculture system is sustainable if it can do the function it was designed for. For example, let's say business. Business can be sustainable, okay, if it not only looks at the profit, but also it looks at the people, fair trade, how it treats its labor, customers, and how it serves the community, okay? And like, okay, I have a story. Okay, in order to, when I say system, sorry, my academia came forward. So I have a story to say when I describe a system. So you can see my screen. Okay, so this is a story about in India. Like this is a story. So in India, there were like 6 blind men. Okay, and the villagers announced that there was going to be an elephant in the town. So the blind men went there and started touching the elephant because they have never seen the elephant before. And then they said, somebody said, "Oh, the elephant is a big snake." The other said, "Nope, it's like a tree." The other said, "It's like, no, it's like a feather." So this is what we are doing right now. So we are not looking at the overall system. We are just trying to, cut down into smaller pieces and just look into the smaller pieces. So when we do that, the behavior of system cannot be known. You cannot know the behavior of system by knowing the elements of the system. In order to become a system, there has to be elements, and there is like connection between the elements and the function. Think of the digestive system. They are like different elements in the digestive system. They have interconnection, and their function is digestion. So, we have to move away from the research sufficiency part and go through the functional part or the system part. So if we look into the systems perspective, how can we see if the system is sustainable? If a system is sustainable, if it can do the function it has been designed for. So, and in order to become a sustainable, the system has to be robust and resilient. Robust means like capable of resisting threats, okay, and altering the system so that it is response to change. And resilient is like once the system breaks down, the ability to come back is the resilient. We have to make sure the system, we look into the system perspective and we look into the resilient perspective. Okay, now let me give you an example of a systems thinking. So according to the systems thinking, what it says is that everything that grows, whether it's a financial system, whether that's an agricultural system, whether that's a simple rumor, whether that's anything that grows at certain point, it stops growing. At certain points, it crashes, and there's always 4 different phases. At first, there's a growth. At certain points, it crashes, and the ability to go back to the original position or ability to regrow back or ability to bounce back, that is what we are looking for. That is what makes the system sustainability. Okay, this is what it makes the system sustainability. So why are we focusing on the systems perspective? Because when we look into the systems perspective, we're looking at the feedback mechanisms, the different feedbacks within the system. So they're like dynamic reorganization based on the system, based on how the disturbance attacked. We have a different forms of reorganization, and we need a diversity of resources that can accomplish a task. So the systems make it, when we look into the systems perspective, we can actually look into the feedback mechanisms and nonlinear interactions, dynamic restructuring, and many different things, okay? So this is one of the way to look at it. So this is probably my second last slide. So what can we do now? I talked about research sufficiency. I talked about functional integrity. I said that we need systems thinking. So how can we do that? The best idea is to map the system, okay? You can either map it through a simple stock and flow diagrams, or you can simply map it to a causal loop diagrams, and which helps us to understand what are the elements in the system, where it is the connection. And then from there, you can identify the leverage points, where in the system you can hit so that we have the outputs or the outcomes that we desired for. So that is a best way of looking at it. And I have an example, and this is my last slide, okay? This is a sustainability example from Africa, especially in Tanzania and Malawi. The African countries, Tanzania and Malawi, these are one of the dry lands, and it's like they have been suffering from drought, food insecurity, and many different things. So a simple intervention, the simple intervention, P's and P. So the smallholder farmers were provided with the P's and P. So that P's and P had the capacity to do its core purpose. That is, it was able to improve the fertility, improve the yield, that was also capable of providing financial returns to the farmers, and also increase the diversification in terms of diet, while also this system was able to deal with all the changes around. So just like a simple P's and P, they knew where to hit in the system. So just like this, we need to know what the system components are and identify the leverage point. Okay, thank you so much for listening. And I know this is a little bit academic. Please ask me if there is any questions. I actually taught this class, like this material, for an undergraduate course, for a 3-credit course, and to bring this 3-credit course into 25 to 30 minutes presentation is really tough. And I thank you so much for listening. And please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharma. I'd like to invite our participants to ask any questions or give some feedback. Please unmute your microphones to speak up. Also, for Facebook Live participants, you can send in your queries at the chat box. Any questions?
Can I have some?
Yes, Ms. Nancy.
Yeah, okay. I'm Nancy Leria. I am from IEM 1981, IIT, and I am a professor from the University of Santo Tomas Graduate School. I'm also the program head for Economics and Development Studies at the graduate school. Now, my question here is this. We would like as much as possible to view our approach and have a systems thinking in our approach for this sustainability. Now, unfortunately, there are other also sectors within the economy wherein it is very difficult for us to, I would say, communicate what we want or what we see in the systems approach in maintaining sustainability. I am also an economist and an engineer, and I think Ms. Sharma pointed out that if you're an engineer, technology-wise, no problem, but always we look on the maximization of yields. If I'm an economist, my point here is my perspective is from the point of view of business. So there is a conflicting issues actually for me here. And I'm also an urban planner in the Philippines. And when you look on the impact to the environment, I would say, where will I situate myself? I am an engineer, I am an economist, I am an environmental planner, and it is really good to have a systems approach. Okay, unfortunately, this is based on my experience. Not all sectors will have the same perspective as we have. And this is a big challenge for us. Now, if I'm also teaching in the graduate school, and since you are doing this for your doctoral paper, I think, so what can we suggest so that we will maintain really sustainability in the environment? I think there is a big challenge for us because of the climate change. And true enough, with the pandemic that we are experiencing now, they said that there is a way for the earth to call our attention that there is a need for us to look on what we are doing to our environment. But I'm just sharing with you my experience as a project consultant, and also my experience as a professor also of the graduate school and development studies. But I'm very happy, Ms. Sharma, and you have a good presentation. And I would say that let's continue. Let's not stop. Okay, campaigning that we really have to have sustainable development. Okay, so thank you very much, Ms. Pradhan and Ms. Sharma. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shreya, should I answer this first or
Yeah,
wait?
sure.
Okay. So thank you so much, Professor Nancy. Thank you so much. Yes, that's a bigger question. Like trying to bring in people from different perspectives together and work together. That's a very difficult thing to do. But right now, the world has been such a way that you cannot only focus on economics. You cannot only focus on one perspective. So what we need right now is we need a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary approach to seeing a thing. So where people from different backgrounds come together and work together. And also another thing is that, you talk about systems approach. Well, systems thinking is everywhere. Everywhere you see it, it's made up of systems. Either we see it as a human body, like cells bring tissues come together, systems. Even you see in education, it's a system. The elements in education are professors, students, and there's interconnection through a knowledge to have a common function, whether you see it as a football team or anything. So there's systems thinking everywhere. All you need to do is we need to broaden your ideas and look for the systems. Where are the elements in the system? How can the systems be together? So that was your another thing. And also, we talked a little bit about climate change and pandemic. Yes, the climate change and pandemic, it's like a wicked problem, and as you say, wicked problems, they're not easy solutions. We don't have easy solutions because we say it wicked problems because it is difficult to solve. We don't know this uncertainty. We don't know there are a lot of uncertainty involved. We don't know what caused it, what will happen. And also, globalization. With globalization, what is happening is the world has become one. There's no boundary anymore. Do you think there's boundary anymore? There's no boundary anywhere. So yet, if we try to sit together, if we have a multidisciplinary research, multidisciplinary people together, we can sit together and map where are the areas we can really intervene. Where are the areas we can intervene? And also, our reason, we are very rich in history. Southeast Asia, South Asia, we are very rich in history. So what was the past things, what we can learn from our history? So what are those elements and processes that we can, scale out? That is also important. And this relationship between expert and non-expert has become so much that we now do not take care of the indigenous knowledge. That is important as well. And also we talk about sustainability, and a question comes, sustainability for whom? Is it sustainability for us? If it is sustainability for the people, for whom? So participatory approaches can also help a lot. Go to the people, talk with the people, what they want, and the participatory approaches that can really help. Okay, thank you. Did I miss any of your questions?
Yeah, okay, thank you very much, Ms. Sharma.
Thank you.
Shreya, can I talk?
Yes, please.
My name is Charles Pradhan.
Okay.
I am 93 NRDM graduate. I am from Nepal. I don't know, Ms. Sharma is from Nepal. I don't know, but it looks you are from Nepal.
Yes, I am from Nepal.
Yeah, I have some observation and some appreciative inquiry only. We have this sustainability, this last, from 1980 to last 50 years we are talking about. When I study in INRDM in AIT, we have a Robert Chamber textbooks we study.
Yes.
One thing you need to look at is, you have a social, economic, and environmental. Nowadays, we don't talk three things only. We talk about countries, political and cultural aspect also linked. So there's a five legs, not 3 legs. That's our understanding. And you talk about community-based sustainability. I have been in Nepal after 93 for last 30 years in development paradigm. You mentioned in that DFID, livelihood framework, this capital, this capital, this capital. Capitalist moron, capitalism approach you are talking about. So my one point is that from community perspective, I have not seen any dimension from the community dynamics, what sustainability means to community level people for community dynamics. I have not seen in your slides. And another point is you need to have a last into 15, 20 years, some people were talking about sustainability indicators, what may be the sustainability indicators in terms of country level, in terms of national level, in terms of regional, local. What can be a sustainability indicators or unsustainability indicators? These are the things you need to look at very carefully. And Nepal, we are talking about community-driven, self-sustained development process. We are now looking at last 30 years. So I think you have more on academic dynamics, academic perspective with practical experience. I think you need to mention if you have a very solid community-based sustainable model. Can you say it? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Charles Pradhan. Yes, I am from Nepal. And I appreciate your concerns and queries. I really appreciate it. And yes, yes, I have an academic sense in my presentation. I agree to it. And just so that you know that I have worked in a community. So I worked in Liberd local initiatives like Liberd and Pokhara. So I also have worked in WWF in Nepal. So I have been a part of a community engaged programs for so long. So yes, my presentation was designed in such a way that in order to, we have a diverse audience here. So we have a diverse audience here, and to have a common language among the diverse audience, I have designed this presentation this way. So coming up to your question, so the community perspective, what does sustainability look like in a community perspective? So, it is very difficult to say what sustainability looks like a community perspective. That is why what we are focusing is that it has to be a participatory approach. The researchers, the planners need to meet together with the community. What are the community needs? What are the aspirations? So this has to come in this way. It has to be participatory. So and every place and every world is different. So what it can be sustainable at one point cannot be sustainable at another point. That is why we are talking about the systems approach. We need to look into the system thing. Where in a particular system, based on the socio-ecological systems. Okay, I'm using socio-ecological systems here. There's an interaction between the social system. There's an interaction with the ecological system. So based on those interactions, the social system and ecological systems, where can we deal it? So that is how we can deal it. And also, I do not agree with the indicators, So indicators make things top down. And when we're talking of sustainability, we don't want top-down approach. The indicators has to come within the community. So if we say, okay, indicators for this is this, indicators for this is this, like we are making ourselves prone to the top-down decision making. So I don't want to promote that. So and coming back to your questions, it is very difficult to identify what are the indicators for sustainability. It depends on the context. Okay, did I miss any of your question?
It's okay. You have talked about. I think you are trying to talk about more holistic dimension. You mentioned in one slide KARMA, karma. What do you mean that? KARMA, karma.
So what I meant to say is that we have become so much focused in short-sightedness, that we are not looking at the longer portion. Like we say, climate change is happening. So we are like, we want to adapt it. We want to do things. But what we're doing is like, we bring a short-sightedness. We're just looking at the short-term coping mechanisms, but we are not looking at the longer perspective. And there are feedback mechanisms in the system. These are like, dynamic structures happening within the system, and they are delay effect. And we don't understand the delay effect. And that is what it's like, you want to do something good, but at the end, we don't consider about these things, and it ends on going bad. So that is what I meant.
Mhm. And you talk about community system. You have been working a lot of places, South Asia, many countries. What we talk about sustainability, what about indigenous knowledge and traditional knowledge integrated in this system? I've never seen in your slides. Have you thought about that indigenous and traditional knowledge?
Of course, that is very important. That is what I was talking about, the participatory approaches, the participatory approaches. And if you heard, like even when I answered to Professor Nancy, I made it clearly that we have a history, we have a wonderful history. And in the past, we have dealt with these issues so well. So we need to bring out those aspects, those elements and processes in our history, in our system, in our indigenous community, and those needs to be scaled out. That is what I was talking about.
Thank you. Professor Nancy mentioned about pandemic. I think now we are talking about the pandemic has this COVID-19 has taught us a lot of things that sustainability will be transforming a different way. So I think we need to be very careful about this sustainable. We have 17 points of UNDP sustainable agenda or something like that. And we now talk about, you talk about resilience. Now we more talk about resilience and people involvement and people adaptive strategy. Nowadays we talk about community adaptive strategy. Now, so I think we need to be very careful. You need to look at more new dimension when you are doing a PhD, then more on academic versus practical understanding of people, policymakers, academician, community, farmers, this and that. I have been, because I since 1993, I have been involved in this process for last 30 years. My thesis was community participation in forest conservation, 93 AIT thesis. And then I question who participate the who program. Community participate the government program or government program people participate. Participation definition, you are talking about participatory is becoming an old model in Nepal. I challenge my friends, what you are talking about in this participatory. These are old model. We need to talk about more in-depth level. So you need to little bit more deeper level. Thank you very much. And my last word, thank you very much.
Okay, I just want to have a last remark. So I appreciate your thought. I understand your perspective. That is why I said in my presentation is like sustainability is so contested, because like we have people from different perspective, and trying to bring two perspectives together is difficult. And also you talked about adaptive management and adaptive capacity. Well, let me tell you something. Adaptive capacity is a part of resilience. Resilience has three important attributes. We can always like talk about it later. So first one is, coping strategy. Another is adaptive capacity. And last is transformative capacity. So adaptive capacity that you said is a part of resilience. We want to look into a broader perspective from resilience. Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, I want to look into the other questions.
Yeah. Next we have Mr. Shashi Bhattarai.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Shashi Bhattarai. I did my master's from AIT in 1997 from School of Civil Engineering, then time. My quick question to Shubhechchha ji. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. My question is, you're talking about the systems approach for sustainability measurement. if we talk about exact tool, maybe a system dynamics you'll use, or there are other multi-criteria decision analysis framework which could develop a sustainability monitoring framework. It's like I have used AHP, analytical hierarchy process based framework to monitor sustainability of micro hydro projects in Nepal. So what kind of tool, specific tool for practical use of sustainability assessment, the system dynamics or a multi-criteria analysis tool? That's my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shashi. Thank you so much. So I'm not aware of AHP. Maybe that is something related to civil engineering or something. Sorry, I am not aware of that. Yes, well, we can do system dynamics. I have used Stella. I use Stella. But there are other tools that you can. But the problem is that system dynamics is like the Stella tool that I used. It's a little bit of technical. And when we are actually working with the community, when we are actually looking at the community perspective, are those people that are not skilled enough to do system dynamics, we can do a simple causal loop diagram. It's a simple causal loop diagram to see what connects with what connects with what. So those are the tools we can actually use it. And we can do
Exactly.
other.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I think we did. Professor Khalid Said was in AIT, when we were doing Professor Fujiwara and Khalid Said, who started our program in infrastructure planning and management from School of Industrial System Engineering. Professor Fujiwara with the Khalid Said. They were the professor of system dynamics and this operations management. The starting point, the feedback loop is the starting point of application of system dynamics.
Exactly.
Stella, I think, is the software to process that.
Yes.
Exactly, yes, that's what I have guessed. But the multi-criteria analysis that is applicable in development, in business, in many other fields, even with the medical doctors. So it is used in sustainability also. So if you are interested, I may refer some literatures on this multi-criteria application for sustainability assessment. So
Thank you so
AHP
much.
is
I
widely used.
really
AHP is
appreciate it.
very widely used. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
thank you
It's
so much.
interesting.
Thank you,
I
Mr. Sashi. We'll hear from you more on 9th of July. That'll be your Alumni Talk series on AHP. So stay tuned for that. Next, I have a question from Mr. Rajaguru. Ms. Sharma. Ministry of Forest and Environment, Nepal focused on forest management, that is sustainable forest management. It is basically based on annual allowable cut in government forest area as well as community forest area. It's really sustainable or not in the context of Nepal, in your view?
So what was the question again? I did not quite
Yeah.
catch the question.
Ministry of Forest Environment Nepal focused on forest management, that is sustainable forest management, SFM. It is basically based on annual allowable cut in government forest area as well as community forest area. It's really sustainable or not in the context of Nepal? What do you think?
Okay, so I know Rajuji very well. He is a forester himself. So I think like he knows the context more than I do. So, okay. So what I want to say at this point is, right now to say whether that is sustainable or not sustainable is very difficult. But how the community forest in Nepal works is that you have to prepare operational plan, and based on your operational plan, there's like forest inventory done, and based on the forest inventory, community needs, and there's allowable quota for harvesting. Am I right, Rajuji? I think so, right? So with all this process being, and the process being led by the community itself, to some sort, it may tend to look at, it may seem sustainable, but it also depends on the context. So what context are we talking about? Are we talking about the lush green forest in Tarai? Are we talking about some areas in Kabre? Or are we talking about some areas in Dadildura? So it depends on the context as well. And I know, Rajuji, you are a forester. You know this question answer more than I do.
Okay, any more questions
But can we have any questions apart from Nepal? Because we have already had like 3 questions for Nepal.
Any more questions from the audience? Any comment or feedback?
Miss
Yes, Professor.
Freya,
Yes.
I have only this comment. Since Miss Sharma is proposing a systems approach, okay, in maintaining sustainability. And I listened also to the talk from our participants, our guests from Nepal. Yeah, it is really good that there is what we call a participatory approach, okay, and planning. And I think Ms. Sharma mentioned this, that it should be bottom up, not top down planning. I agreed with that. The only thing which came to my mind is this: the integrator of all this packet of analysis on the grassroots should have a macro perspective on how to integrate them. Because we are looking on the systems approach, so you have the feedback loop, as Ms. Sharma had mentioned. So if we will have a modeling, we will know what will be the effect of one packet planning in one area. So that's my only comment. And thank you very much again, Ms. Sharma. I hope I can connect with you in the future for some studies on sustainable development. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And surely we can connect. Yes, I'm looking forward to working with you in the future.
It will be an interesting opportunity for both of us.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you everyone for sharing your ideas. Now I'd like to invite Ms. Maria Faye Niostro-Ferriols, President of AIT Alumni Association, for the concluding remarks. Welcome, Ms. Faye.
Okay. Hi. Hello, good evening, AIT family. In behalf of the Asian Institute of Technology Alumni Association, our AITAA Governing Board, our AITAA Headquarters Executive Committee, and our AIT alumni spread all over the world, we would like to thank the Asian Institute of Technology, especially the School of Environment, Resources and Development, for co-organizing with AITAA this forum by which our alumni can discuss how innovative initiatives in relevant areas of environment, natural resources, agriculture, population, human settlements, information technology, engineering, manufacturing, education, and other areas that could be implemented, maintained, and sustained. In any system project, there's a minimum of 3 pillars of foundation for things to work: the hardware, the software, peopleware. The hardware will refer to the hard resources like equipment, facilities, infrastructure. The software will refer to the soft resources like processes, designs, approaches, methodologies, programs, documentation. The peopleware would refer to the proponents and recipients who have the intent, the aspiration, the commitment, the organization, the qualifications, and skills to make the project work. Which one will determine the success or failure of the project that will ensure its longevity and sustainability during its lifespan? Tonight's topic has been an eye-opener on what are the components and ingredients and challenges to sustain certain initiatives in various areas of concern. Certainly, AIT has its biggest contribution in developing a very important resource, its graduates, us. When we were students at AIT, we learned how to focus on developing innovative approaches to issues. We learned the proper use of equipment and prepared ourselves even to obsolescence and consumption of resources. We learned how to organize and integrate our resources and ourselves. We learned how to work with a team, contributing, sharing, compromising if necessary, taking varied and opposite opinions, giving feedback and evaluation. We understood time management, commitment, and we learned to have a heart. I've always believed that this is our advantage, our alumni, our peopleware in implementing and sustaining initiatives. We are very thankful to Madam Shubhechchha Sharma for discussing with us these issues on sustainability for relevant initiatives. These are timely and most relevant issues to note and be aware of when there are so many initiatives that are cropping up to address the new normal. I am sure that most AIT alumni have their own experiences in implementing, maintaining, and sustaining projects. Let us use this forum, this connection, to communicate with each other, to share what we have done, to keep ourselves, our coworkers, our families, mentally and physically resilient during this time, and sustaining our happy lives. May I invite our AIT alumni to contribute their knowledge and talent in these trying times. Let not this pandemic hinder us in sharing our resources to continue innovating for our communities. Thanks again to all the organizers of this event led by Dr. Navid, Ms. Shreya, Ms. Sitang, and most especially our excellent resource speaker, Ms. Shubhechchha Sharma of Nepal and USA. This engaging talk will be again aired in our YouTube channel, Walk the Talk AITAA, and our Facebook pages. So please subscribe to our channels. There will be more. Stay tuned, keep safe, and may God bless us all. Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Faye, for sharing your views, and thank you everyone for joining our live session tonight. Thank you once again, Ms. Sharma, for your wonderful talk. Hope to see you soon with our next interactive Alumni Talk series, that is next Monday, 15th of June, on Effectual Entrepreneurship by Dr. Umar Safdar. You're most welcome to register if you want to be part of these talk series, and please send in your feedback on today's session through email or our social media group. Also, today's recording